Hey everybody, this is TinTim. That is T-I-N as in new students, T-I-M as in matriculation. I am America's first drag queen public intellectual, aka the Cornell motherfucking West of Drag, coming to you each week with my thoughts on the most recently aired episode of RuPaul's Drag Race Season 1, aka Lost Season. Dun dun! So this was Episode 4, also known as the Viva Glam Challenge for MAC, about the MAC AIDS Fund. And I would say one of the most memorable episodes of the first season of RuPaul's Drag Race. Mostly because of Ongina's win, and then confession about her own HIV positive status on the runway. In the years since Season 1, we have seen a lot of tearful confession moments, a lot of moments of people's personal drama getting used and dragged out to add to the drama, to create these human moments about how we're all sisters and family and yada yada, especially in the recent recent years of the Untucked show where they've had the calls from home. Of any of those moments, this moment with Ongina still feels like the most authentic, the most genuinely moving, the one where the contestant or character on the show seemed to be taking the biggest risk and just the least prefabricated. And I cried the first time I watched it, and I cried watching it again today, like very genuinely. So I don't know. I don't know that I have anything deep or profound to say about it, except to pay respect to Ongina for the risk in that moment, and for her commitment to vitality and to life and to celebration. And, you know, I've talked with a few friends, namely my friend Jeremy Jezebel Agogo, who's a queen here in Chicago, about how it seems sort of strange, actually, that Ongina is still the only contestant on RuPaul's Drag Race to come out as openly HIV positive. It seems hard to believe that she's the only one in the history of the show who is. And I don't know if that just speaks to the stigma that that status still has, but, you know, me coming from a kind of social justice perspective, I think fighting stigma and creating those spaces of openness and community where we acknowledge that this could be any of us, and that just seems really important. And Ongina to me has that power, and that, she's not invulnerable. She's a real person. She's not a symbol, but she takes a risk, and it's solidarity and respect, I think, for that. So it's interesting that that is contrasted, right, with Rebecca Glasscock and the emotional breakdown that she has in the midst of the challenge that ends her up in the bottom two. And the way that the show is edited in terms of the comments from the other queens, it seems like they're kind of wanting you to question whether that breakdown was real or authentic or not, or whether it's part of her game in some way. This episode, I have to say, this episode specifically, and Rebecca Glasscock in general, as a kind of quote-unquote villain, has always confused the hell out of me. And in a way, I think, I never really understand what her intentions are, what's really going on in her head. And in a way, I kind of like that, because it's part of that thing that I've been talking about with Season 1, of things seeming a little bit more open, and people aren't, conscripted into these really narrow roles yet. It isn't totally clear who she is or what her character is. And that is in some ways more interesting than if it was like a really one-dimensional, narrow villain role, classical reality TV role that she was being stuck into. But at the same time, I get sort of frustrated watching her, because I've never really understood her motivation, and I've never really understood, like what that was about. So whatever it is about her and who she is, all of the other queens, most of whose opinion I would trust on this, but they all seem to really question whether that breakdown over her friend dying was genuine or sincere or not. And what I've never understood watching this episode is why she would do that if it wasn't, what she has to gain from that, what the idea is there, but something about it is strange. And hits a wrong note in some way. So I'm interested in your opinions on this, because I think it'll come up again later in the season when we see more from Rebecca. I'm remembering one particular thing she does later in the season that I also never understood. But I've just always found her behavior kind of hard to read. And her drag skills too. It seems like her face changes and her painting skills change drastically from episode to episode. But whatever. The one other thing I wanted to talk about in this episode was just to pay some respect to our hometown girl from here in Chicago, Jade Sotomayor. You know, I think that we got to see some of her talent and skill on the show in terms of, you know, she's an amazing dancer, extraordinary dancer, extraordinary choreographer, really. Extraordinarily kind. Being here in Chicago, I have to say, watching her over the last couple of years, I always thought she was gorgeous. I always thought she was very talented. The kind of drag she did, that very kind of Jennifer Lopez-y influence, was never that interesting to me personally, but she has evolved and has so much versatility now. She's been doing some really interesting androgynous looks and genderfuck looks. And the other really cool thing about Jade is she has always worked as a male go-go dancer as well as a drag queen. And even sometimes in the same night has gone from gorgeous woman to go-go dancing boy within the course of the same night at the same bar without everyone there knowing that that's what has happened and that it's even the same person. I think that is super cool. And she's a really nice person. Check her out and seek out some of the work that she's been doing, because I think she deserves to be seen a little bit more. And the other thing I would say about that is that I totally agree with her, that I think she killed Rebecca in that lip sync and should not have been the one to leave. Rebecca adds drama to the show, or maybe Ru has a genuine interest in her potential or something. I never quite understood the Rebecca thing in general, like I said. But that is all I've got for you this week. Look forward to talking to you all again next week. Much love to you all. Mwah.